Hey everyone, so I wanted to make another video covering this topic because it seems a lot of players who are just getting into the game have a lot of questions about this issue, which is either grinding. And I'm going to go over a few things in this video. One, namely, why do you either grind at all? What's the purpose? What are the most efficient ways to either grind? And then what are some options to either grind if you don't have a strong enough team to grind some of the harder, most commonly done stages that endgame players are either grinding currently. So to start off, the main reason that you either grind is to get the arc either fragment rewards, which can be obtained once you reach 100% either with the arc. If we look at my arcs right here, I'll show you an example with the Dragon Treasure Rhinicle arc, which by the way is a terrible arc for its skills, but does happen to have a oh, I guess I can't even look. So that was a bad way to show you. I have to go to an arc that I don't currently have at 100%. I do apologize for that. So let's look at Altar of the Forbidden Book. So why you would start either grinding in the first place is because you'd be interested in this arc either 100% reward, the Magic Tome Velodoma. And basically, once you get the arc to 100% either on its gauge, you will be rewarded with this arc. Or with this item, rather, sorry, which is an accessory. So there's a lot of different types of items you can get from reaching 100% either on your said arc. And the only way to grind either is by doing a stage, or doing a quest rather, and at the end of a quest, every time you complete it, you have around a 10% chance to gain 0.1% on the either gauge. So as you can probably deduce from that, either grinding is a long and grindy process, hence the name, that does take a lot of playtime to actually complete on an arc. But luckily, I am going to give you some tips on the most efficient ways to go about either grinding, just to make that long farm a little bit easier on you. So first, to start off, basically the most important thing about either grinding is finding a stage that you can clear very quickly. So instantly this knocks out about 90% of the stages in the main story mode, as these stages all tend to have at least 3 waves in them, which increases the clear time by quite a bit. When you either grind, you almost always want to have a stage with only 1 wave, as this will speed up the clear time exponentially. So, now that we know that we want the stages to have 1 wave, you can explore for some in story or in the world map story mode, but obviously ones that you have access to from the very start if you do happen to own a gacha unit, which I'm sure a lot of people rerolled for, so they do probably have, is unit stories, all of which have 1 out of 1 waves in their quests, in their stages. So every unit story is composed of 1 battle. It's only 1 wave. And if we look at a story that I have tried to grind for either, let's say Sevia's, every battle in the unit story will be 1 out of 1 wave, and they will all have different drop tables and different enemies, which will affect your clear time. But the added bonus of grinding either in unit stories, which is pretty substantial, is you also get a chance to have the unit soul that the story pertains to drop while you're grinding the story. To note though, they don't appear in the drop table. And that your actual chance of getting a unit soul from completing one of these chapters of the unit story depends on the battle which you do. All unit stories have between 1 and 3 battles, and the lowest, the easiest or the first battle that you get access to in the unit story will have around a 1% chance to drop the unit soul, which I know is not very good, but it's better than nothing. I typically don't recommend farming this just because the return is not going to be that great, and as you can see, they tend to have terrible drop tables, like only 2 items. As you can see with this one, I didn't even bother. But the last battle in every unit story that's available will have up to a 4% drop rate of the unit soul, which is much better. And Sevia's is an example of one that has a great drop table, dropping both the small and medium EXP potions pretty frequently, red, green, blue crystals, and as well as the ancient alchemy drop. I don't know the percents on these for you guys yet, but I will say, unfortunately, the metal plates is about 3 times more common than the ancient alchemy from my farming of this story. And the EXP potions do drop pretty frequently, which is nice. Additionally, I think the red and blue crystals drop more than the green in my experience. But for this story specifically, the ability to farm crystals of multiple colors is something that is pretty rare in unit stories, so this is one of the best ones to farm. Okay, so I've given like a little bit of an intro on, how to farm unit stories basically. It's most beneficial if you pick a unit of your choice that you're actually going to be building in the future, so you can use the souls that you get to increase their SC cap. But one example might be like if you didn't want to build Dine, you could still potentially grind his story, and this is a very easy level with only 1 enemy with about a 1.5% chance to drop ancient alchemy. So if you just needed ancient alchemy, it could be argued that this would be like a viable place to grind, even if you weren't that excited about building Dine, though I don't really recommend it. Now, for the newer players watching this video, it's most likely, I hate to break it to you, that you're probably not going to be quite strong enough to grind the last battle in any gacha unit story. But don't worry, because we can get you there very quickly. And I do have another opportunity for you to grind either if you want to get started on it a little earlier, which actually I did before I even started grinding either Sevia or Lilah's unit story, which I'll show you right now in the world map. Sorry, just going to collect my... sorry, that was just a visceral reaction. Every time I go to world map, just got to collect those orbs from my soul wells. Definitely, man. All right, well, so a place that has a stage in the main story mode that's only 1 wave and is pretty easy to grind is Port Lytle on normal mode and the stage Assault on Populous. It has a pretty decent drop table with the opportunity to get purple crystals and a roughly 1.5% chance of ancient alchemy. So the same as Dine's unit story. Basically, if you don't want Dine souls or don't have Dine, this is a little bit harder of a stage, but it's still really easy to farm. I farmed it way before I even got Magic Up Max, Passive, Magic Aura, anything like that. So yeah, it's pretty easy. I would show you a test run of it, but unfortunately, now that I just got Magic Aura on my Lilah, as you might have seen from my update video, this isn't really going to be useful to you to see because my Lilah is just going to nuke the stage just as she will any of the harder stages. So I do apologize that I can't really show you that to gauge the differences in difficulty between this and like a level 4 unit story, which I will do one run of later in the video. But yeah, it is a lot easier. So I do promise that if you're struggling on the higher level unit stories. One last thing to leave off on is like you don't have to farm that stage. I think there are other 1 out of 1 stages within story, although I haven't really checked that and I'm not really sure, mainly because that was just the one I farmed, and it's not really useful for me to go back to a story mode stage and farm, since at endgame you really want to be farming the unit stories to get unit souls, because SC really turns out to be like the true measure of your unit's power, and that's obviously the only way to actually farm them without just wailing and pulling dupes. So now I'm just going to go into what it's like to grind a unit story and some important things to note as far as team composition and your plan to grind it. So basically the most efficient way to grind a unit story, yeah, I'm sorry if you heard that. I guess that was a loud siren in the background. Well, the most efficient way to grind a unit story is to first do the stage and look at the resistances of the enemies that are in, or of the mobs that are in the wave you're trying to clear. The easiest way to do it on auto, so you don't have to manual cast anything, is equip your magic DPS with a spell that the enemy is weak to, because the AI will automatically cast any spell instantly that the enemy is weak to in most cases. So as we can see with this stage, which is Lilah's chapter 4 story mode stage. Sorry guys, getting a little tired. I feel like I've been droning on for a while here, so sorry if it's been getting a little boring, but this is all useful information. But yeah, so if you notice in this stage, there's only one enemy and it is Archdemon boss, but instantly my Lilah goes to cast Shining Zoc because it's the only light spell she has, and the Archdemon is weak to light magic. So it just basically ensures that you don't have to do any clicking when you're actually in the stage and can just let it safely auto. Now, whether you're playing on PC or emulator, basically what you do when you've actually killed the stage, Jesus, when you've actually completed the stage and killed all the enemies in the stage, basically just spam tap right here to get a little bit faster on the clear time. Wait for this to pop up, and then just spam tap here as well. And basically, because you cleared that stage so fast, you're going to be increasing your chances to gain 0.1% on your ether gauges per hour than if you were doing a stage that had more waves, say 3 or 5 waves, which will be much slower. You can't obviously even grind either doing that, just because it takes way too long. So basically it consists of doing this over. So I do want to apologize for that, as my phone did run out of space in the middle of recording this video, but it was already 11 minutes long, so I apologize that I don't really want to redo it, but I don't think that should affect how much the video will help you guys or whoever's watching it. Obviously production quality not the highest here, but I'll definitely try to get better in my future videos. So I'm just going to continue the quest where I left off, and what I was talking about was essentially a very important part of ether grinding, so please just stay tuned and focus for this. But you just have to make sure that your mage has a spell that the enemy is weak to, so that they will automatically cast it without you having to click on, without you having to manually click the spell to cast it yourself, which obviously is much preferred to doing that because it reduces the how many clicks you have to make when you're farming and how much attention you have to devote and everything, which it's obviously nicer to not devote as much attention since this is a very long and grindy process. But anyways, yeah, I mean, that's really it for this video. Like I said, I can't really show the differences in the difficulties of stages anymore just because I don't really have an intermediate caster to test it out. But I will say, in my opinion, if you're considering between Lilah's story stage or Sevia's story stage, or perhaps even if you're just getting into the game, the Port Lytle Assault on the Populace. The Port Lytle Assault on the Populace is easiest, but it doesn't give unit souls, which is a pretty big drawback for me, but it's a great way to start grinding either at a very low level. In the Sevia stage, there are enemies that have multiple resistances, so not all the enemies are the same, which makes it hard to pick the right spell to farm it. Ideally, that spell would be Abyss Gate, but because this spell is only available on Dark Melza, and many people have not built her to be a caster in the current meta right now, it's more likely you're going to be using Dark Matter, Poison Cloud, or something like that. Additionally, a very good option is to use Poi Poi's Evil Gate. That's a very good way to farm that stage very quickly. Unfortunately, I can't show you that because I haven't built my Poi Poi, because, I don't know, I'm just not that excited about her, but that's just me. She's a great unit. Sorry to all the SM fans. But yeah, I'm not super into her / him or whatever, so I just didn't build. And that's the beauty of this game, is you can really go with the units that you want, and there isn't that huge of a difference between the tiers. And you can still make any unit you want to be viable and very good. Obviously, the ones at the very bottom are a little bit harder, but luckily they're both kind of around the same respect for most of the top casters in the game right now, which I would say are Zeke, Stein, Lilah, and Poi Poi. So yeah, that's basically the gist for ether grinding. So we went over why you do it and the most efficient ways to do it, and some different stages you can grind depending on where you are in the game. So as always, I hope that this was helpful to you, and that yeah, I hope it wasn't a waste of your time or anything, and you learned some great information on how to start ether grinding, and ideally, hopefully, it makes you more excited for the game as like a long-term goal type deal. That's definitely what it did for me. So I will. I will be making some more videos here. I'm going to do a kind of just for fun unit review on the heroes that I have a bit later. So look for that if you're interested, and I will still do the maxing on Lilah now that I've gotten her Magic Aura, if you saw that in my progress update video as promised. So yeah, please stay tuned, and as always, you can find me on Discord. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.